107.5 WGCI, the Shy's number one for hip hop and R&B. It's the morning show with the Destin legend Leon Rogers, the beautiful Kendra G, and of course myself, the shortest day man in Chicago, Kyle. And on the line, you see her on the Zoom right now, holding it down with us this morning. Miss Sarah Jakes Roberts is here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
How you feeling?
I feel good. It's been a tough couple of days. I think everyone's kind of just breathing in everything that's been taking place, but I'm out here. I'm making it.
Sure, no question. What were your thoughts and your feelings since you brought that up when you heard about the verdict? I'm assuming that we're talking about in the Derek Chauvin case. What were your thoughts and your immediate feelings?
I was somewhat relieved, but it was hard to rejoice because at the end of the day, like this is what should be happening, you know? And so the idea that we're rejoicing, I likened it on my social media. It's like rejoicing when somebody paid you back money they owed you. It's like you owed me the money. Right. So, you know, this is the least that you could do. But you know, I'm hoping that it's the beginning of something different in this nation.
True indeed.
Yes. Sarah, I just love you. I want to start by saying I just love you. I feel like you're in a category of Michelle Obama when it comes to Black women. And let me explain that. Let me explain that. Because Black women, we don't play about Michelle Obama. You know, you can't say nothing bad about her. We willing to fight. And I feel like Black women feel the same way about you because you bring so much positivity, so much joy, and you're so transparent about your story. And, you know, you have this new book, Woman Evolve, but there's some people who don't know your backstory. I know your backstory, and they know that your father's TD Jakes, but they may not know what you went through as a teen mom, pregnant with TD Jakes being your father. So can you start there? Because not everyone knows that story that might be watching.
Absolutely. So Kendra, to your point, I got pregnant at 13. TD Jakes, you know, is my father, and his, you know, name was, I think, really beginning to grow at the time that I got pregnant. And part of that growth, when something is happening that feels so much bigger than you, there are these insecurities already as an adolescent. But when you take that magnifying glass, it's like, where do I fit in the middle of this? And so I found myself doing whatever was necessary to try and fit in. I get pregnant at 13. I have my son at 14. And then for about 10 years, I just had this toxic relationship with myself, with friends, and romantic relationships. And it wasn't until like 10 years into it, I had this like crazy moment. I had rammed cars. They called the police on me. I'm walking out of this CPS office, and I just felt like I can't keep living like this. There's got to be something better, something different for me. And that journey of me evolving is really when I invited other people in to just kind of tell them what I was learning. And now here we are, you know, a few years down the road, and it's become something so much bigger than me.
That's dope. Miss Roberts, I have a question because I was super close with my father. I lost him 8 years ago to cancer. And I used to always hate to share my dad with people. But my dad was the type of person, you know, that he looked out for the other kids on the block. He talked to people. He counseled people. What was that like growing up for you when you've got the ultimate shared dad, TD Jakes? You know what I'm saying? Like his voice, powerful. People seek guidance from him. They seek counseling from him. What was that like for you having to share your dad with the world?
First of all, I want to apologize, send my condolences for the loss of your father. I know that time still allows that grief to kind of be close to the surface. You know, it was difficult, but I will say this. My father is a high capacity person. There are some people when they are sitting at home 24/7, you like, listen, you need to go outside and do something. And I think that had he been at home, he would have been preaching to us just like 24/7. It probably would have tore our relationship up because he's such a high capacity person that I think he was called to so many people. There were moments, I think, you know, a lot of people call my parents mom and dad growing up. That felt a little odd just because that was the only thing that we had. But as I've grown older, I've come to accept it as a part of, you know, his life, his calling, his mandate. But there were certainly moments growing up where I was like, I just wish that he was only my dad.
Let me ask you this, Sarah, because so many people, myself included, have gone to your father's, you know, whether it's videos on YouTube and at different times drawn inspiration or look for maybe an answer to what it was that they were dealing with. And I think a lot of people would say, well, obviously this book is about you coming from trials and tribulations to evolving, you know what I mean, into, you know, whatever your future is, whatever your now is. But people would say, well, you know, why were you going through such trials and tribulations when you had somebody in your home that we go to for answers, and that person is your father, and he's tangible, and you can go to him. And I'm pretty sure there's plenty of lessons that he can give you personally, one-on-one. What do you say to those people that say, well, why didn't you just get whatever you needed from your father? Because we go to him. Were you able to do that?
This is such a dope question, because rarely do people ask me this question, but I kind of ask myself the same thing. And I think a lot of the shame that I felt was like, you're in this household where people's lives are being transformed, and yet you don't know who you are. You don't believe you have a purpose. How is this possible? And then I felt like if a dentist child gets a cavity, like no one's like, how could you let your child get a cavity? Because they realize that there are some things that are just a part of life. And I feel like everyone has to come to their own journey of understanding who God is for themselves. As someone told me once, God doesn't have grandchildren, right? So I can't benefit from my father's relationship with God. I have to have my own. And my journey took me outside of my home for me to encounter God. And I think that happens for a lot of people. They find God in other places. Maybe it's not always in the church or in their home, but I think what's most important is that we find our way to him.
I love it. Women Evolve is the book. So I want to talk about, because some women feel like once they become a mother, that's it. Like they have to give all their energy in being a mother, and they put their dreams aside. And then there's some women who are just focusing on their dreams, and then they're like, oh shoot, I never became a mom, or I never became a wife. And I feel like the evolving chord for women can be a challenge at times. And then sometimes they might get to a plateau and they say, well, this is what it is. I'm a career woman, or I'm a mother, or I'm not a wife. How do you keep inspiring women at every age to keep evolving and let them know that it's never too late, no matter what age you are, to evolve?
Oh gosh. And this is, my mother just graduated college. She's 65. So like, I am all for the inspiration of seeing a woman like do her thing at any age. And she spent most of her life taking care of us and being the glue that allowed my father to go out and change the world. What I would say to women is this, is a lot of times we have these expectations for our lives that are really projections that society puts on us, that our family members put on us. And in the process of pursuing what feels authentic to us, we realize that I didn't meet any of these cultural expectations. And I think that that's actually a beautiful thing. So what we have to be sure of is that what we're doing is what's true and authentic to who we are in our core. And once we have the peace about that, we can't try and be everything that everyone wants us to be. And if we do have desires, that mean we have to shift and pivot to be okay with sacrificing a little bit on this end so that we can build on this other side. I do believe that you can have it all. You just can't always have it all at the same time. And I feel like my life, I mean, we've got 6 children. We're a blended family with 6 kids. I have businesses, we speak, I do all of the things. And I'm tired, I need a nap. But I don't know that any of them are like always at the forefront of my mind. I stay focused on what's in front of me.
So I got to ask this question, because I mean, coming from the household, the Jakes household, like, what was family like? Like, did spades ever get heated?
Oh,
and if so, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? It possibly like, you know, right now, the Lord is telling me to cut. You know, like, what was game night like?
We don't care how anointed you are. There is no reneging on the spades table, my man. We will not allow it. My cousin is my spades partner, and she lives in Dallas. I live in LA now, but spades goes down. I mean, we cooking, we're barbecuing. My father's telling random stories that he's told over and over again, asking questions like, is so-and-so still in this world? Like, I think the same thing that happens in most Black households when fried chicken and potato salad and cards are out is exactly what's happening in our house. I spent more time like that than I spent with my dad being like TD Jakes. So he really is not that figure to me, because that's what most people see. But what I see is him cutting up at home.
I just can't imagine TD, like when you say TD Jakes cutting up at home, like, you know, pick the toys up out of the floor. I can't stub my foot no more.
If you listen to his sermons, sometimes you'll see a little bit of cut up come out. Sometimes he'll be preaching, I'm like, that's my father's preaching right there. That's not Bishop Jakes, that's my father.
Nice. So let me ask you this. Your father, man, being so big and you guys being a part of that family, I've always been somebody to a certain extent has been turned off by the super churches.
Yeah.
Your father's such a worldwide public figure. You know, I could say that, you know, it's a super church situation. When you see some of these other pastors, not saying no names, and they get caught up in the super churches and they're doing the wrong thing with the money and, you know, the cars and the jets. And it's like, well, what about the people that we're supposed to be taking care of? How do you, you know, how does that work in your mind when you see that and you know what you're living with and how things are supposed to be, and you see what people are doing in the wrong way?
I hate it. It's like trying to love someone after they've been in a really toxic relationship. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have misused the platform. And because they have misused the platform, it doesn't matter how many other legitimate streams of income, like my father has, or even I may have, because that narrative is out there. It's just automatically this connection between, like, oh, okay, if you have this, then you got it from the church. And that's not always very true. I really feel like the mega church thing was coming up at the same time that my father was coming up. And just like from our, internal perspective, I always kind of ask myself, like, the first Sunday we started our church in Dallas, 1,500 people joined the very first Sunday. My dad was running 5 services on the weekend. And so he built a church that would accommodate the people who were coming and also preserve his life. And so I think that he did the best that he could given what he was up against. And I don't think that anyone could have anticipated the negative slant that it ended up taking. But one of the things I try to do with my platform is, like, I try to be transparent. I try to be patient with people. And then I understand that there are some people who have been so hurt and so disappointed that will never really win them. But I hope that they find peace and community in something that feels true for them, because I get it. I totally understand. It makes us all look bad.
Right. Sarah, you probably don't know this, but in 2014, I lived in LA and I used to go to one church all the time. And I remember that's the year that you and your now husband met and started building the relationship. So I was in the service a lot of different times when your husband was speaking about meeting you. Then you were coming to the church, and I knew I had a platform. I said, one day I'm gonna be able to talk to her. Right now, I'm just gonna be like a girl in the church. But I remember then you guys end up getting married later on that year, and then I came to Chicago in 2015. But I just remember that journey of the husband you have now, and I think it's such a wonderful marriage. I love how you guys celebrate each other. She's married to Pastor Torrey Roberts, hence Sarah Jake Roberts. But there's so many women who are in toxic relationships who think they're normal. How do you tell a woman, and even to be honest, we kind of celebrate on social media sometimes toxic relationships, and people don't realize, like, this is toxic. How do you help a woman realize this isn't healthy for you? You should look for something different. Like, what is that? How do we break that cycle?
I'll tell you, I was in a toxic relationship, and I spent a lot of times trying to make the relationship no longer be toxic. And I never shifted the focus on me not being toxic. Whenever there's a toxic relationship, 2 people are bringing their poison into the relationship, whether it's the poison of fear of being alone, insecurity, self-esteem issues, they all get in the mix. And so I try to focus less on the relationship, because to me, the relationship is the fruit of a poison that's down on the inside of someone. And then I begin to focus on, like, what is your poison? For me, my poison was, I felt like I had no self-worth or no self-value. I got pregnant at 13. I used to hear my own story and cringe and have so much shame and regret. And so I carried that poison with me anywhere I went. And it wasn't until I took the onus on myself to begin healing. And I was in my previous marriage when I began healing, that I came to a place where I was clear enough to make decisions that were healthy for me, my children, and of course, to end that relationship. And so I think we got to focus less on the relationship, more on the people, and give them room to come to a place of really filtering that poison out of their soul.
I like that.
Wrong. So you, a woman, a mover, a shaker, you come from royalty. Your husband, talk about the dynamic between you and him, because a lot of people say that women that are movers and shakers like that are hard to deal with. You can't be in a relationship with them. So what is the dynamic like between you and your husband, being that you're out front and in the spotlight?
I love my husband so much. And he told me when we first started dating, he said that he felt like his job was to create an environment for me to flourish. So everything you see me doing right now is a result of the environment that he created for me. And though my name is out here now, there are moments when his name is out there. I think one of the times I saw Kendra, I was in Chicago doing something with my husband for his book, but I honor the environment that he created. I don't take it for granted, and I don't start to think that this moment in my life was created by myself. I recognize that my husband has played a pivotal role in who I am as a woman and in the success that I have experience. And so I think when the movers and shakers honor the environment that allowed them to move and shake, that we can see the partnerships move forward in a healthy way. Because like this is not a competition, and I'm not trying to outshine my man. I'm trying to change the world with him. And however we do that, we do that. But I'm not trying to be bigger or better than him.
You're pretty cool.
I mean it.
Word, man. I almost ran downstairs and ran outside.
That's my man. That's my heart.
No question. All right, so let's get to it, man. The book, Women Evolve, Break Up with Your Fears and Revolutionize Your Life. The book is out. We see it behind you on the shelf. What do you want women to get from your book and what it is that you've put between those pages?
Believe it or not, Woman Evolve was inspired by Eve, the most unappreciated, underrated woman in the Bible. She is, you know, a part of the reason that we had this fall of humanity. And I used to say when I got to heaven, I was going to drag her because we gave her one job. But, you know, God told me that I couldn't be out here empowering women and trying to drag somebody in heaven. So I did my life together. I mean, as soon as I get in the gates, like, where is she? But I started studying her life and I was like, you know, I was looking at it and I just felt like God was like, Eve knew better, but didn't do better. And Sarah, you knew better and didn't do better. And yet I was still with her. I still showed her the roadmap to restoration and redemption. And so Woman Evolve is me studying the life of Eve, sharing my own life stories about those moments when I ate from forbidden fruit and how I came to a place where I finally surrendered to, I don't want this to be the end. Eve has this moment in the garden and we see it play out in a way that we don't ever discuss in scripture. But I feel like any woman who's ever felt stuck, any woman who's ever felt afraid, that this book is going to benefit you in literally revolutionizing the way that you think and show up in the world.
Nice.
I think what I love about that the most is accountability. And I think a lot of times we shirk that. Like you was like, okay, I messed up. You know, I tell my daughters that all the time. If you mess up, own it. I got your back regardless. I'm your father, but just own it. Don't brush it off like it's everybody else's fault. And this is why you did this because somebody did this. So I just really appreciate the fact that you like, even Eve was like, okay, yeah, I probably shouldn't have did that. Yeah. But hey, let's keep it moving.
Yeah. Thanks. What can I do now?
Right.
Yeah. Sarah, before you go, our producer Ryan is probably the biggest church goer out of all of us. We'll keep it honest. But a lot of times Ryan judges us. So I wanted to talk about, if you can real quick, the people that go to church, how y'all judge other people.
Wait, y'all, wait a minute. Where's Ryan? He at least
let me take y'all out.
Where is he?
Okay, not you, Sarah. Not you, Sarah. Not you, Sarah. Not you. But sometimes people who go to church, they judge people who don't go to church. And we feel like at sometimes people in church have their issues too. They might just kind of mask it better or cover it up better. So that sometimes makes the people who want to go to church don't want to go because they feel like they're going to be judged. Like, I was a stripper. Now I don't want to go to church because everybody going to say, well, she was just stripping last night. Now she in church today. Or she got 2 baby daddies. She ain't married none of them. Now she in church. Like sometimes, what do you say to the people in church that are judgmental against other people?
I will say that not every community is like that, but I get it. Church has to be a safe space. If it's not a safe space, it can't become a transformational space. And I feel like wherever you can create that safe space, if it's listening to sermons in your living room and that is what you have, then honor that. I think what's most important is that people have encounters with God. To be honest, church is supposed to be the place where we come, we get equipped, and then we go out into the world to change the world. And if people no longer feel safe in our environments, then we do need to change that. I feel like our church in LA is one of those places where you can come in however you are. And I know that there are other communities like that. At the end of the day, church people do come out of the world though. So, I mean, it's not like they came into the church and then became someone totally different. And I think we have to remember that the same people who we're trying to bring into our community so that we can send them out clean are the same people who we are going to be sitting next to in the grocery stores. And we got to be more open and welcome. I'm hoping, I'm praying that as God highlights voices, that he highlights voices that make anyone feel more comfortable. I used to waitress at strip clubs. So I'm like, sis, if you're still stripping, if you're still dancing and that's where you are in your journey, but you also trying to figure out where your faith is in the middle of it, come on, we're going to figure this thing out together because I don't have it all on lock and we all got to grow together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We appreciate your time today. We want to encourage everybody to go get the book, Women Evolve. We thank you so much for being here. Sarah Jakes Roberts, one last thing that you would like to leave with the people of Chicago.
Oh goodness, Chicago, I love you. I can't wait until we can open up this world all the way so I can come get some Harold's chicken and some Garrett's popcorn and just sit out there and be cold, because that's what y'all like to do out there. I love you guys. I thank you for what you guys are doing for the culture. It really does matter. It's making a big impact on who we are and how we think. So I honor you guys for what you're doing with your platform.
Whatever, girl. Where is Eve?
Where is
y'all think I'm playing? Y'all think I'm playing? Where she at? Peter, where she at?
We love it.
I know she's here.
Yo, thank you so much.
That's what we gonna do.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
No doubt.
Bye.
Bye.